The journey continues. Part 2. New beginnings. Baby Adaze grew quickly. By the time she was 6 months old, she had a full head of curly hair and Chief Okachukwu's smile. Amaka and Chuka settled into their roles as parents, taking turns with night feedings and diaper changes. Their small apartment in Abuja now had baby toys scattered around. Photos of Adaze filled their living room walls. The smell of baby powder mixed with the aroma of Amaka's cooking. One evening, as Amaka rocked Adaeze to sleep, Chuka sat beside her on their sofa. "I never knew I could love someone this much," he whispered, touching Adaeze's tiny fingers. Amaka smiled. "She brings out the best in us." Parenthood wasn't easy. Amaka had to balance her job at the Ministry of Education with being a mother. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, tired, and worried if she was doing enough. Chuka noticed her struggle. One Saturday morning, he woke up early, packed a small bag for Adaze, and told Amaka, "Get dressed. We're going out today." "Where to?" Amaka asked, confused. "Just trust me," he replied with a smile. He drove them to a small garden resort on the outskirts of Abuja. They spent the day walking around, watching birds, and letting Adaze feel the grass under her feet for the first time. The baby giggled with joy, her small hands reaching for flowers. As they sat under a tree, Chuka turned to Amaka. "You're doing an amazing job, both as a mother and at work. I see your strength every day." Tears filled Amaka's eyes. "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing at both." Chuka shook his head. "You're not. Look at our daughter, happy, healthy, loved. And your colleagues at work respect you. We're a team, remember? When you need help, just tell me." That day was a turning point. They learned to communicate better about their needs and fears. Career challenges. At work, Amaka faced new challenges. Her department got a new director who didn't understand her need for flexibility as a working mother. "Mrs. Chuka," the director would say, "this job requires full commitment. Your family matters are your own business." The pressure increased. Late meetings, weekend work, and impossible deadlines became common. Amaka tried her best to balance everything, but it was taking a toll on her health and time with Adaze. One evening, she came home to find Chuka feeding Adaze while on a work call. He balanced the phone between his ear and shoulder as he spooned food into the baby's mouth. "I'll send the reports tonight," he was saying. "Yes, sir, I understand the deadline." After his call ended, Amaka sat beside him. "You too?" Chuka nodded. "Work is crazy right now, but we'll manage." They sat in silence for a moment, both exhausted. Then Adaeze threw her spoon on the floor and laughed. They couldn't help but laugh too. Later that night, after putting Adaeze to bed, Amaka and Chuka had a serious conversation about their careers and family life. "Maybe we need to rethink some things," Amaka suggested. "I've been thinking about starting my own educational consulting firm. I could set my own hours, work from home sometimes." Chuka looked surprised. "That's a big step, are you sure?" "Not completely," she admitted, "but I've been researching it. With my experience and contacts at the ministry, I could help schools improve their curriculum and teacher training. It would be challenging, but more flexible." Chuka thought for a moment. "If that's what you want, I support you. We might need to tighten our budget for a while, but we'll make it work." Amaka felt a weight lift off her shoulders. "Thank you for believing in me." Family matters back in Lagos, things were changing too. Chief Okachukwu's health improved significantly. He started taking short walks around the compound and even joined a seniors club at the local community center. Mrs. Ifeoma became more active in church activities and started a small business selling traditional herbal teas. She sent pictures to Amaka almost daily, of her garden, her tea products, and mostly asking for pictures of my Adaeze. Uche was doing well at his tech job and had started dating a colleague named Blessing. Ngozi was now married officially and expecting more children. During a video call one Sunday, the whole family gathered at Chief and Mrs. Okachukwu's house. "When are you bringing our granddaughter to visit?" Mrs. Ifeoma asked, her face filling the screen. "She's growing so fast in these pictures." "We're planning to come next month for Christmas," Amaka replied. "Adaeze is old enough to travel now." Chief Okachukwu moved closer to the camera. I've cleared the back room for you all, and I bought a small bed for a days. The excitement in his voice made Amaka emotional. Despite the distance, her parents remained a strong support system. After the call, Chuka noticed Amaka's thoughtful expression. "What's on your mind?" "I'm just thinking about how much has changed," she said. "Remember the tension during their anniversary celebration? Now look at us, one big happy family. It feels like a miracle." Chuka nodded. "Your parents have grown too. They've learned to let go and trust you." The Christmas visit December came quickly. Amaka, Chuka, and Adaeze flew to Lagos 2 days before Christmas. The family home was already decorated with colorful lights and a small plastic tree in the corner of the living room. When they arrived, Mrs. Ifeoma practically grabbed Adaeze from Amaka's arms. "My beautiful granddaughter, look how big you've grown," she exclaimed, covering the baby with kisses. Chief Okechukwu stood tall, looking healthier than Amaka had seen him in years. "Welcome home," he said, hugging Amaka tightly. The house was filled with delicious smells: jollof rice, fried chicken, meat pie, and chin-chin. Mrs. Ifeoma had prepared all of Amaka's favorite foods. That evening, as everyone sat in the living room, Chief Okechukwu made an announcement. "I have something to show you all," he said, standing up slowly. He went to his room and returned with a large envelope. Inside were papers, the deed to a plot of land in Lekki. "This is my gift to all my children," he explained. "I've divided this land into 3 portions, one for Ngozi, one for Uche, and one for Amaka. It's not much, but it's something to build on when you're ready." Everyone was stunned. Land in Lekki was valuable and expensive. "Daddy, how did you manage this?" Amaka asked. Chief Okechukwu smiled. "I've been saving for many years. Your mother and I wanted to leave something meaningful for you all, a foundation for your futures." Mrs. Ifeoma wiped tears from her eyes. "Your father insisted. He said our children deserve something solid to stand on." The room was quiet as the significance of the gift sank in. Then Uche broke the silence. "Well, now I have to find a wife quickly so I can build on my portion," he joked, and everyone laughed. Christmas Day was filled with visitors, relatives, neighbors, and old friends who wanted to see Adaeze. The baby enjoyed all the attention, smiling and reaching for anyone who came close. During the festivities, Amaka noticed something different about her mother. Mrs. Ifeoma was more relaxed, less controlling. She didn't offer unsolicited advice or make comments about how Amaka was raising Adaeze. Instead, she observed and helped only when asked. "You've changed, Mom," Amaka said when they had a moment alone in the kitchen. Mrs. Ifeoma paused as she stirred a pot of soup. "Age teaches you things, my daughter. I've learned that holding on too tightly only pushes people away. Your father helped me see that." Amaka was touched. "I'm proud of you, Mom." Mrs. Ifeoma smiled. "And I'm proud of you, the woman you've become, the mother you are to Adaeze. You're doing it your own way, and it's beautiful to watch." New ventures. After returning to Abuja in January, Amaka took a bold step. She resigned from her job at the Ministry of Education to start her own educational consulting business. It was scary but exciting. She converted one of their bedrooms into a home office. Chuka helped her set up a website and business cards. Their savings would support them until her business got off the ground. The first few months were challenging. Amaka spent hours making calls, sending emails, and meeting potential clients. Some days ended with no progress. On those evenings, she would sit with Adaeze, watching her play, wondering if she had made the right decision. Chuka remained her biggest supporter. "Rome wasn't built in a day," he would remind her. "Keep going. Your ideas are good." Slowly, things started to change. A small private school hired her to redesign their curriculum. Then a government initiative for rural education reached out for her expertise. By June, she had 4 clients and was considering hiring an assistant. One evening, as they put Adaeze to bed, Chuka handed Amaka a small box. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," he said with a smile. Inside was a beautiful name plaque for her office door. Amaka Chuka, educational consultant. "I'm so proud of you," Chuka said. "You took a risk and it's paying off. You're building something important." Amaka hugged him tightly. "I couldn't have done it without you believing in me." Balancing act. As Adaise approached her second birthday, she became more active and curious. She was walking, talking in short sentences, and had a strong personality already. Amaka's business was growing too, which meant more work and travel. Finding balance became harder. There were days when client meetings ran late, and she would rush home feeling guilty for missing dinner or bedtime stories. Chuka did his best to fill in the gaps, but his job was demanding too. They relied increasingly on a part-time nanny, a kind woman named Mama Joy who lived nearby. One Wednesday afternoon, Amaka was in a meeting with a potential client when her phone rang repeatedly. She ignored it the first few times, but when it kept ringing, she excused herself to check. It was Mama Joy. A daisy had fallen and hit her head. They were at the hospital. Amaka rushed out without explanation, her heart pounding. At the hospital, she found Chuka already there. He had left an important presentation when he got the call. A daisy was fine. A small bump and no concussion, but the incident shook both parents deeply. That night, after putting Adaise to sleep, they sat on their balcony with cups of tea. "Maybe we need to slow down," Chuka suggested. "Both of us are working so hard that we're missing important moments." Amaka nodded. "I've been thinking the same thing. Success means nothing if we're not there for our daughter." They decided to make changes. Amaka would be more selective with clients and limit travel. Chuka would talk to his boss about reducing overtime. They would create a strict family time schedule where work calls and emails were off limits. It wasn't easy adjusting, and there were financial implications, but their priorities were clear. Family came first. Unexpected news. Just as they were settling into their new routine, Amaka discovered she was pregnant again. The news came as a surprise. They had planned to wait until Adaise was at least 4 before having another child. Amaka was worried about the timing. Her business was finally stable, and they had just found their balance as a family. How would they manage with another baby? When she told Chuka, his reaction surprised her. He was overjoyed. "A sibling for Adaise," he exclaimed. "This is wonderful news." Amaka couldn't share his enthusiasm immediately. "But what about my business? What about our plans?" Chuka sat beside her. "Plans change, and that's okay. We'll figure it out together, just like we always do." Telling their families brought another wave of reactions. Mrs. Ifeoma was ecstatic, already planning a visit to help after the baby was born. Chief Okachukwu sent a voice message saying, "God is increasing our family. What a blessing." Uche joked about becoming an uncle again, and Ngozi offered to send all her baby clothes since her son had outgrown them. As the months passed, Amaka began to embrace the pregnancy. She reorganized her client schedule to accommodate doctor's appointments and planned for maternity leave. Chuka took on more responsibilities at home, especially with Adaise. They decided to tell Adaise about the baby when Amaka's belly became visible. One evening, they sat her down with a picture book about becoming a big sister. "Baby?" Adaise asked, pointing at Amaka's stomach. "Yes, sweetheart. There's a baby growing in Mommy's tummy. You're going to be a big sister," Chuka explained. Adaise looked confused for a moment, then smiled. "My baby?" "Yes, your little brother or sister," Amaka said, touched by her daughter's reaction. Adaise leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on Amaka's belly. "Hello, baby." That simple moment changed everything for Amaka. Her worries didn't disappear completely, but they were overshadowed by a new sense of purpose and joy. Health scare. In her 6th month of pregnancy, Amaka developed complications. Her blood pressure was dangerously high, and the doctor ordered complete bed rest. This meant putting her business on hold and relying on Chuka and Mama Joy to care for Adaise. It was a difficult time for everyone. Amaka felt helpless, watching others take over her responsibilities. Chuka was stretched thin, balancing work, home, and regular hospital visits. There were nights when he fell asleep in his clothes, too exhausted to change. One evening, after a particularly hard day, Chuka sat on the edge of their bed, looking defeated. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "I'm trying to be strong for everyone, but I'm scared." "What if something happens to you or the baby?" Amaka reached for his hand. "I'm scared too. But we're stronger than we think. Remember what you told me when we started dating? We'll take it one day at a time." That's what we need to do now. They decided they needed more support. Chuka called Mrs. Ifeoma, who arrived from Lagos the next day with a suitcase full of food and remedies. Having her mother there was both a blessing and a challenge. Mrs. Ifeoma took over the kitchen, prepared special meals for Amaka, and spent hours playing with Adaeze. But she also had opinions about everything, from how the house was organized to Chuka's work hours. Despite occasional tension, her presence was invaluable. She provided stability when they needed it most. After 2 anxious months, Amaka's condition stabilized. The doctor allowed her to move around the house, though she still needed to avoid stress and heavy work. One afternoon, as Amaka sat in the living room, watching Mrs. Ifeoma teach Adaeze a traditional song, she felt a surge of gratitude. Her mother, once a source of pressure and criticism, was now her strongest support. "Thank you, Mom," Amaka said suddenly, "for everything." Mrs. Ifeoma looked at Adaeze, surprised. "What else would I do? You're my daughter. Your children are my grandchildren. Family takes care of family." That simple statement contained a profound truth. Despite their differences and past conflicts, family remained their foundation. Birth and rebirth. On a rainy August morning, Amaka gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Obinna, meaning father's heart, a tribute to Chief Okechukwu. The birth was difficult, requiring an emergency C-section, but mother and baby recovered well. When Mrs. Ifeoma arrived at the hospital and held her grandson for the first time, tears streamed down her face. "He has my husband's nose," the old woman whispered, examining every feature of the tiny face, "and his father's chin." Having 2 children under 3 years old was even more challenging than Amaka had anticipated. Adaeze, though loving toward her brother, also showed signs of jealousy. She would cling to Amaka when she was feeding Obinna or cry for attention when visitors came to see the baby. Chuka made special efforts to spend time with Adaeze, taking her to the park or for ice cream, assuring her that she was still loved and important. As for Amaka's business, she had to reinvent it entirely. Instead of client visits and workshops, she shifted to online consulting and curriculum development that she could do from home. It meant less income, but more time with her children. Mrs. Ifeoma stayed for 3 months, helping the family adjust to their new reality. By the time she returned to Lagos, Amaka had developed a routine that worked for everyone. During this period, Amaka and Chuka grew closer than ever. Their communication improved, and they learned to be more open about their needs and fears. They scheduled regular check-in talks after the children were asleep, where they discussed everything from household chores to their dreams for the future. One night, as they sat on their balcony sharing a late dinner, Chuka asked, "Are you happy with how our life has turned out? It's not exactly what we planned." Amaka thought about the question. Their apartment was smaller than they wanted because they chose to live on one income. Her business wasn't growing as fast as she had hoped. There were toys scattered everywhere, laundry always waiting to be done, and some days she felt like she hadn't had an adult conversation in hours. But then she thought about Adaeze's laughter, Obinna's tiny fingers wrapping around hers, and Chuka's unwavering support. "I'm happier than I ever imagined I could be," she answered honestly. "Our life isn't perfect, but it's real and full of love. What more could I ask for?" Chuka smiled. "I feel the same way. Though I wouldn't mind if both kids slept through the night occasionally." They laughed together, finding joy in their shared exhaustion. Unexpected opportunity. When Obinna was 6 months old, Amaka received an email that would change their lives again. A prestigious international education organization was looking for a consultant to lead a project in Nigeria. They had heard about her work and were impressed by her approach to educational reform. The role would involve developing a comprehensive teacher training program for schools in underserved communities across the country. It was exactly the kind of meaningful work Amaka had always wanted to do. But it would also mean more responsibility and some travel. She discussed it with Chuka that evening. "It's an amazing opportunity," she explained. "The impact could be huge, but I don't want to disrupt our family life again." Chuka listened carefully. "What does your heart tell you?" "That I want to do this," she admitted, "but not at the expense of our children or our marriage." They spent days discussing the possibility, weighing pros and cons. Finally, they came up with a plan. Amaka would accept the role, but with clear boundaries. She would limit travel to once a month, for no more than 3 days at a time. The rest of the work could be done remotely. Chuka would adjust his schedule to be home when she traveled. They would also hire a full-time nanny who could stay overnight when needed. It was a risk, but they decided to take it together. The project was challenging but fulfilling. Amaka worked with schools in communities that had been neglected for years. She trained teachers who were passionate but lacked resources and support. Every time she saw a teacher implement a new technique or heard a student express excitement about learning, she knew she was making a difference. At home, their new arrangement worked better than expected. The children bonded with their nanny, a young woman named Patience, who had a degree in early childhood education. Chuka became more involved in daily parenting tasks, developing his own routines and games with the children. During her travels, Amaka missed her family terribly. She would video call every night, listening to Adaise's stories and watching Obina's newest tricks. But she also felt a sense of purpose that enriched her life and, by extension, her family. Returning to roots. As the project progressed, Amaka found herself visiting schools in rural areas similar to where her parents grew up. She saw children full of potential but limited by circumstances beyond their control. During one such visit to a school in a small village outside Enugu, she met an elderly teacher who reminded her of her father. "I've been teaching here for 40 years, the man told her. "Many of my students have gone on to become doctors, engineers, even professors. But many others never had the chance to fulfill their potential because of poverty or lack of support." His words stayed with Amaka long after she left the village. On her flight back to Abuja, she thought about her own journey, how her parents' sacrifice and her father's belief in education had changed her life. When she returned home, after hugging her children and catching up with Chuka, she called her father. "Daddy," she said, "I understand now why you pushed us so hard to study. I see it every day in my work. Education changes lives. Thank you for giving me that foundation." Chief Okechukwu was quiet for a moment. "I always knew you would do important things, Amaka. You have a good heart and a strong mind. That's a powerful combination." That conversation sparked an idea. During her next team meeting, Amaka proposed a scholarship program for promising students from rural communities. The organization loved the concept and agreed to fund a pilot project. When she shared the news with her family, Chuka suggested naming it after her father, the Chief Okechukwu Education Foundation. Amaka loved the idea. When they told Chief Okechukwu, he was overwhelmed with emotion. "My name on a scholarship," he kept saying. "Me, a simple man who just wanted the best for his children." The foundation was launched with a small ceremony in Lagos. The entire family attended: Chief Okechukwu and Mrs. Ifeoma, Ngozi with her husband and children, Uche with his now fiancée Blessing, and of course, Amaka, Chuka, Adiezi, and baby Obina. As Chief Okechukwu stood to give a short speech, his voice trembled with emotion. "Education lifted my family out of poverty," he said. "It gave my children opportunities I never had. Now, through this foundation and my daughter's work, that light will spread to more children. This is the true meaning of legacy." The first 5 scholarship recipients were selected from different rural communities. Amaka made it a point to visit each family personally, explaining the opportunity and addressing their concerns. In one home, a mother held Amaka's hands tightly and said, "God sent you to us. My daughter is brilliant, but we couldn't afford to send her to a good school. Now she has a chance." Moments like these gave Amaka's work deeper meaning. She wasn't just developing curriculum or training teachers, she was changing lives, one child at a time. Full circle time moved quickly. Adayezi started primary school, a confident and curious 5-year-old who loved books and making friends. Obina, now 3, was energetic and talkative, following his sister everywhere. Amaka's work with the international organization expanded to other African countries, though she maintained her commitment to limited travel. Chuka received a promotion that allowed him more flexibility to work from home 2 days a week. Their land in Lekki remained undeveloped for years as they focused on their careers and raising their children in Abuja. But as housing prices in Abuja continued to rise, they began to consider building on their Lagos property. During a family meeting, they discussed the possibility of moving back to Lagos. "The children should grow up knowing their grandparents better," Amaka said, "and I can run the foundation more effectively from there." Chuka agreed. "My company has a Lagos office. I could request a transfer, and with your parents nearby, we'd have more support with the children." The decision wasn't easy. They had built a life in Abuja. Friends, colleagues, favorite places. But the pull of family was strong. They started building a modest house on their land, visiting Lagos regularly to oversee the construction. Chief Okechukwu, despite his age, was involved in every detail, offering advice and sometimes arguing with the contractors. Mrs. Ifeoma began preparing for their return, clearing space in her compound for the children's toys and planning which fruits to plant in the garden for them. As the house neared completion, Amaka and Chuka prepared their children for the move. They showed pictures of their new home, talked about the cousins they would see more often, and the beach they could visit on weekends. Adais was excited about having a bigger room. Obinna mostly asked if his toys would come too. The move to Lagos took place during school holidays. Their new house, though not fully furnished, was ready for occupancy. It was smaller than their apartment in Abuja, but had a garden where the children could play. The first few weeks were chaotic, unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, finding new schools for the children, and adjusting to Lagos traffic again. But there was joy in the chaos. Chief Okechukwu and Mrs. Ifeoma visited almost daily, bringing food, offering help, or simply spending time with their grandchildren. Ngozi's children, Emeka 8 and Nkechi 6, now became a regular playmate for Adizi and Obinna. One evening, as they sat on their veranda watching the children play in the garden, Chuka turned to Amaka. "Do you remember our conversation years ago, when we first started dating? You said you wanted a life where you didn't have to shrink yourself for anyone." Amaka nodded. "I remember. Looking at you now, running the foundation, raising our children, supporting your parents, I see a woman who has never shrunk herself. Instead, you've grown and helped others grow too." Amaka squeezed his hand. "We've grown together. That's the beauty of it." Inside the house, the phone rang. It was Uche calling to announce that Blessing had said yes to his proposal. Another celebration was coming. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Amaka stood in their garden looking up at the stars. The same stars she had looked at years ago on the veranda of her parents' house, when she was torn between family duty and personal dreams. She had found a way to honor both. Her phone buzzed with a message from one of the scholarship students who was now in university. "Ma, I got an A in my project. Thank you for believing in me." Amaka smiled. Life had come full circle. The girl her parents had raised with love and high expectations was now passing that legacy forward. In the distance, she could hear the sounds of Lagos at night. Cars honking, music playing, voices calling. The rhythm of home. Inside, her husband and children slept peacefully. A few streets away, her parents did the same. Amaka took a deep breath of the night air. This wasn't the life she had planned all those years ago, but it was richer and more meaningful than anything she could have imagined. It was a life built on choices made with courage and love, a journey that continued with each passing day. The legacy grows. 5 years passed quickly. Adais was now 10, a bright student who loved mathematics and writing stories. Obinna, 8, was athletic and social, always surrounded by friends. The Chief Okechukwu Education Foundation had grown significantly, supporting over 50 students across Nigeria. Several of the first scholarship recipients had graduated and returned to their communities as teachers, doctors, and engineers. Amaka had reduced her travel even further, focusing on managing the foundation and developing online resources for teachers in remote areas. Chuka had started his own business consultancy firm, working with small and medium enterprises. Chief Okechukwu, now in his 80s, had slowed down but remained the family patriarch. He spent most days in his garden or reading newspapers, offering wisdom to anyone who would listen. Mrs. Ifeoma was still active in church and community activities, though she made sure to reserve Saturdays for baking with her grandchildren. Uche and Blessing had married and welcomed twin boys. Every Sunday, the extended family gathered at Chief and Mrs. Okechukwu's home for lunch. The compound that once felt tense during that anniversary celebration years ago was now filled with children's laughter and warm conversations. During one such Sunday lunch, as everyone sat around the table, passing around dishes of jollof rice, plantain, and chicken, Chief Okechukwu stood up slowly. "I have something to say," he announced, his voice softer than in his younger days, but still commanding attention. Everyone quieted down, even the children. "Looking around this table," he began, "I see wealth greater than any money could buy. My children have become good people who care for others. My grandchildren are growing in wisdom and kindness. This is what matters in the end, not how much land you own or how big your car is, but the love you've shared and the lives you've touched." He raised his cup of water. "To family, past, present, and future." Everyone raised their cups, echoing, "To family." As Amaka looked around the table, at her father's proud smile, her mother's twinkling eyes, her husband's steady presence, her children's innocent faces, her siblings and their families, she felt a deep sense of completeness. The journey that began with tension and misunderstanding had transformed into something beautiful. They had all grown, not just in age, but in understanding and compassion. That evening, as Amaka and Chuka walked home with their children, Adaeze asked, "Mom, will we have a big family like Grandpa and Grandma when we grow up?" Amaka smiled. "Family comes in all sizes, my love. What matters is that it's filled with love and respect." Obinna, holding his father's hand, looked up. "And stories. Grandpa always has the best stories." Chuka laughed. "That's true, and someday you'll tell stories about your childhood to your own children." As they reached their gate, the setting sun cast long shadows on the street. Another day was ending, but their story, a story of love, growth, and finding balance, continued. Inside their home, on the living room wall, hung a framed photo from Chief and Mrs. Okachukwu's 40th anniversary celebration, the day that marked the beginning of Amaka's journey to find her own path. Beside it was a newer photo of the entire extended family, taken at the Foundation's 5th anniversary. From struggle to strength, from tension to harmony, from confusion to clarity, their lives had evolved, shaped by choices made with courage and love. And as night fell over Lagos, the Okechukwu family legacy continued to grow, one day, one decision, one act of love at a time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for the final part of this story. May God bless you. Please make sure you drop your comment and share your thoughts with us.